What's happening, folks? It's the brother AJ. I'm here in full effect, and I'm going to do another one of those classic Prince talks. This one should be special because today is April 21st, 1923. This is the 7th anniversary of Prince's death on the most perfect of numbers, as 7 is simply that perfect number in our numerological system. I would like to take this time to reflect and look back upon the impact that day had on me 7 years ago. I'm going to read you almost verbatim my Facebook post that day. It reads, "It's almost 1 p.m. I'm sitting in my company whip, finishing up lunch. I was reading my Kindle and listening to ESPN Sports Radio, and my phone starts blowing up as folks begin sending me messages. The announcer says, 'This just in. Minnesota legend Prince found dead in his Paisley Park home.' I'm like, say what? I check the internet on my phone. First thing that pops up is some TMZ stuff. And of course, I'm not feeling or believing that. So I get back to work where I can log onto my computer and really look on what's going on. And kaboom, it's the real deal. The text messages, the Facebook posts, the emails, and the phone calls were all amazing. That's because my friends, my family, and fans, they all know how much I dig this guy. I've been down with him since 1979, and I was totally stunned that he was no longer here on planet Earth with us. But I was even more amazed how all of my peeps cared enough about me to check in on me and make sure I was straight, as if I was a member of his own immediate family. And how crazy and fitting it was is that night I had tickets to go to NJ Pack to see his Minnesota Music Connection mates, Mint Condition, at NJ Pack. And I knew they would add a little something special to the set to immortalize not just yours, but their hero too. So peep today's picture of how I'm dressed so you can see how hard I rock with my boy. Rest in peace, Prince. Nobody did it better. And as you view me on the screen, you can see how I'm set up. I'm all purpled out. Got to represent. Okay? Just to take you back, the show that night was crazy as Flowetry opened up and they made their comments regarding Prince. But when Stokely and Mint Condition hit the stage, you could tell it was with heavy heart. He had a personal, intimate relationship with those guys, and this had to be a difficult task. And they chose to play Prince's "She's Always in My Hair" as a tribute jam to him. And they may not have been a dry eye in the house, even though this is like an up-tempo, rock-style track. I felt like I was kicked in the chest by an elephant. I was numb as I tried to process this information. Not so much because he passed away. I mean, come on, man. We're all going to check out. We're all going to die. But it was the way in which he died, from a drug overdose. Not Prince, the anti-druggie, the guy who wanted none of this around him so he could simply create the music that burned within him. The fact that he went out literally the same way Michael Jackson did before him was eerie. He wouldn't even have this stuff around him. So clearly the pain that he was dealing with from jumping off those pianos and touring and grinding the way he did took a toll on him when he got into the painkiller world, and he couldn't come up out of that. So it's just easy to criticize, but until you go through some of the things that these folks are dealing with from a pain management, you just don't know. And another funny thing is, I used to laugh at people who went crazy when some famous person they had zero connection to dies, and they would break down and couldn't go on another day. That was comical to me. Well, for the first time in my life, probably not since Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. passed away, did I finally experience the kind of impact that these folks felt. I mean, I didn't go off the deep end or anything crazy. I just felt like I was sleepwalking through the next few days, trying to regain my center of balance. It was surreal, as I could finally sympathize with what many others go through. So I've stopped being so cold and callous to them about it, because now I can understand when you have that connection, there is a bond that you have as a fan. And when that thing hits you that hard, I can see what happens. So I take back some of those bad things I said. And I do. I truly walk into that which I say I am. If you say you know me and you don't know my love of Prince as my number one core musical influence, then can you truly say you know me? It's all around me in my studio. See on the wall back there, some charms. Got a wall of posters you can't see over here, all Prince out, you know. It's in my sound palette. It's in my clothing, as you see today, the jewelry. I got the Prince charm. I even have the Prince love symbol tattooed on my left bicep, you know, to show my allegiance to the cause. Because, yo, if you down, we go deep. So here are some images of that time, of what I look like at work that day, how I came into work the next day. Then I sat down in the studio to make a Prince master mix music project so I could lose myself in his vast music collection that he left behind for us to data mine. His death made me reflect back on deaths that have truly impacted me. Because as I said, I'm more of a Eastern culture guy. In the West, when people die, we tend to lose our mind and we go crazy and we can't process. But in the East, you know, your Asian cultures and they revere a person when they die and they treat it with the reverence and the celebration that it's truly due. And they don't look at it as this negative thing. So I usually have that kind of outlook myself. So let me walk you through some of the deaths that impacted me. And the very first one was my sister in 1990. She passed away unexpectedly. And hers was the first close death of somebody who meant a lot to me that I experienced. That was like my wake-up call as to what the impact of someone close to you dying does. And that was like, whew, I had to, take a breath there for a minute. And then in 1992, my mother passed away right behind her. And the only good thing that made it a little bit easier was I had just went through my first close death with my sister. So I had a little bit of, a fortitude in me. But my mother also, she had the hospice people there. She had the hospital bed in her home. So it was inevitable that she was going to pass away. That gave me the opportunity to kind of build myself up and steel my will so that when I did get that call, I was a lot more better prepared for it rather than getting that call out the blue, out of nowhere, and having to react that way. So, but the problem with your mother is that it's your mother, man. That death hits you differently than any other death because of that maternal connection of what she meant to bring you on this planet and give life to you as a human being. So just as I was handling those, in 2005, as we talk about that maternal connection, my grandmother, Sally P. Jones, passed away. She was the true matriarch of our family, and that was an atomic bomb. She was the woman who breathed so much love and life and family into our whole, the whole heritage of us. Not just into her 5 kids, of which my mother was the oldest, but all her grandkids, her nieces and nephews. She had this uncanny ability to make you feel like you were the only one in the world that mattered, and she truly loved you, and only you. Her death hit the Jones family hard. We all had to take a deep breath. I remember my Uncle Jesse. He's the next oldest after my mother. And we were at the church and the service was going on. I looked up and I didn't see Uncle Jesse. It's his mother. I'm like, Uncle Jesse. So the service went on. Come to find out, he left the church, went outside, and he sat in his car because we all have to grieve in the manner in which we grieve. And it just showed that, it hits us all differently, and that's how it hit him about his mother. And that will stick with me because that was powerful, okay? And then in 2012, I buried my baby brother. My older sister passed away. We're all about 7 years apart. And then my baby brother, Larry Alfred Swan Jr., a.k.a. Fats, was buried on Valentine's Day in 2012. That was truly an unexpected death, as we had been making plans to get together with him coming down to New Jersey to hang out with us and us going up to Albany to hang out with him. And then out of nowhere, you get that call that shifts your momentum. My brother, he was a knucklehead for like the first half of his life, and he turned his life around and he got himself on the right track. And my God, I was so proud and so happy of him. And then for him to not have a chance to take that thing further down the road. But I always said, you're given the time and the life you're given, so you do the work you're required to do in the time you're given. But I was so proud of what he turned out to be before he passed away. And just as I'm getting over that, back to back, in 2013 and 2014, I lost my two aunts, my mother's baby sisters. They also breathed incredible life into me as a youth. And I had a chance to live in both of their households, and they were just wonderful ladies to me. My Aunt Marianne, the baby of those bunches, she was the most liberal one of the Jones sisters, and she passed away first. And she was truly like my second mother. She was the closest thing to my own mother. She cared for me as if I was one of her own children. And she did so many wonderful things for me. And just really helped me branch out and grow. And then Aunt Jolene followed her the following year. And when we were younger, she was the tough love person in the family. She had a little bit of that gruff exterior, but we didn't know that underneath there was a heart of gold. And it was crazy watching her after she retired and left Jersey and went back home to North Carolina. She had a metamorphosis, and she became more like Grandma Sally, especially with her own growing brood of grandkids. She ended up with a whole posse of her own. But she always had my best interests at heart, and she helped me transition from high school kid to the man who left her home to go live on his own. And I've been living on my own ever since. And a lot of that seasoning I got from her household. So I have nothing but love for my two aunts and my mother and my grandmother, as those women truly had an impact on my life. And that's probably why in 2016, Prince's death landed right alongside of that for me. Every year, when this time comes around, it's crazy. As you can see my look today, I will always recognize and celebrate my man for the joy, the music, and the free spirit approach to life he infected me with. In 2019, I felt the call of his presence so strongly that I made a sojourn to Minneapolis so I could walk the streets, breathe the air, and take in the area that made him who he was. In my short stay there, I went to US Bank Stadium, that Crystal Palace I like to call it, to see the Minnesota Vikings play. I saw the Minnesota Twins play. I saw the WNBA Minnesota Lynx play. I went to Dakota's Jazz Club, which was a club he would sneak in to go see some of the acts that would be there. They have a nice upper level where he could look down and see the stage and check out what was going on. I took a steam paddle boat up and down the mighty Mississippi River. The highlight of that is the captain was a young captain. His name was Captain Tom. All of a sudden, when Dove's Cry came pumping through the system, because he saw me there with all my Prince gear on, and he came out and said, I played that for you, my man. So much respect, Captain Tom. I love you for that. And the highlight was taking a tour of Prince's Paisley Park complex, where I simply lost my mind. I was in seventh heaven, man, as I could fully understand his vision of bringing his music, the sound space, the fashion. He could do film there, and his friends, because he had a small club there. He had a big room we could throw, like 1,000 people could come and just enjoy yourself in this world-class space. My words, it can't do it justice. It's simply stunning. You must go see it for yourself. I was able to record a 30-second clip of the song 7. And I had my picture taken in Studio B that I will cherish for the rest of my life. It was amazing. That's the picture you see back there. That's me standing in Studio B. And they had a mural of his band Third Eye Girl. And they took my picture standing there. And I will cherish that because that's me and Prince in his space. Okay? And that night, the same night I was at Paisley Park, I went to a show at the legendary First Avenue where much of Purple Rain was shot. The show was in the small 7th Ave entry space, which is a little smaller room, which I didn't know. I thought the whole thing was, the main room. But when I walked in there dressed the way I was, there was this cool little security guard, and there was this sister that was taking the tickets. I think her and I were the only two black people in the whole place because it was a country band, and it was mostly white folks that came in to see that group. And I just wanted to go see a show at First Ave. That was my whole modus operandi to go there. But they took one look at me, and they were like, yo, we got to reach out to our manager. And he reached out to their manager. She came downstairs, and they told me that I wanted to see the big room. This is a little side club. There was nothing going on. It was locked down. And she came and opened it up for me and let me walk around. So I got the tour of the big room. I thought that was bananas. I mean, who does that? All right. These people didn't have to do that. But I think they could feel my energy, my vibe, and the aura I was bringing to the universe. And so they just jumped on my frequency and let me do it. So I got to walk around and truly take in the space where that seminal movie, Purple Rain, was shot. And you could almost feel like the crowd was in there. You could see the scenes being played over in your mind. And it just made me really connect deeply with the city, with the club, and with Prince. And so all I want to say on this day is that all of these things have weaved through my life with the connecting thread of Prince, who is gone 7 years today. Yet his legacy, although not from his own children, because his only child passed away before he even had a chance to flourish, it will live on through the children he created called music. His style, his fashion, his flair, his zest for life, and his prolific, impeccable music catalog will be with us until the days of earth are nevermore. So I hope you enjoy this journey of Prince on the 7th anniversary of his passing. As I said, he will never die because he will live on through each of us that love the man the way we do. The brother AJ saying, I love you all. Peace and blessings, and do what you do. Bye-bye.